जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना, यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना, ब्रज जन रंजना, यमुना तीरा मनचारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी, प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद, जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद। हरे कृष्णा। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शस्य श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्ण। ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नाम। नमस्ते सरस्वती देव गौरवाणी चारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाशी प्रदेश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। It's a good time to take out Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. And now, please give me the verse. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, verse 53. 3:23-53. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So chant together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudire. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोकैर्भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी. कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपाकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपा स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्. Hare Krishna. Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 23, verse 53. Hare Krishna. Etavatalam kalena व्यतिक्रांतेन मे प्रभु इंद्रियार्था प्रसंगेन परित्यक्ता परात्मनः एतावतालं कालेन व्यतिक्रांतेन मे प्रभो इंद्रियार्था प्रसंगेन परित्यक्ता परात्मनः एतावतालं कालेन व्यतिक्रांतेन मे प्रभु इंद्रियार्था प्रसंगेन परित्यक्ता परात्मनः. एतावतालं कालेन व्यतिक्रांतेन मे प्रभो इंद्रियार्था प्रसंगेन परित्यक्ता परात्मनः. Hare Krishna. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jai. Etavata, so much. Alam, for nothing. Kalena, time. Vyatikrantena, passed by. May, my. Prabho, O my Lord. Indriyartha, sense gratification. Prasangena, in the matter of indulging. Pratityakta, disregarding. Paratmanah, knowledge of the Supreme Lord. So those are the synonyms. Now translation. Until now, we have simply wasted so much of our time in sense gratification, neglecting to cultivate knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Purport. Human life is not meant to be wasted like that of animals in sense gratificatory activities. Animals always engage in sense gratification, eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But that is not the engagement of the human being. Although, because of the material body, there is need of sense gratification according to a regulative principle. So, in effect, Devahuti said to her husband, so far we have these daughters and we have enjoyed material life in the aerial mansion, traveling all over the universe. These boons have come by your grace. but they have all been for sense gratification. Now there must be something for my spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna. So now for my spiritual advancement, I beg your blessings. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Name. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Vicharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desh Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Once again begging blessings and forgiveness in advance. In your lotus feet, please bless me so I can do some justice to Srimad Bhagavatam. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnava ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So translation once again for today's verse, Devahuti, Mother Devahuti, 23rd chapter is about Devahuti's lamentation. Until now, we have simply wasted so much of our time in sense gratification, neglecting to cultivate knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Devahuti is lamenting, and her lamentation is directed towards desire for spiritual progress, spiritual advancement. It is leading to that, and it is far more spiritually driven than the lamentation of Arjuna that Arjuna had in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. His lamentation was more geared towards the thoughts of having to kill his relatives for victory and having to kill his gurus for victory. That was his lamentation in Bhagavad Gita. Previous commentaries of previous acharyas, the first chapter is called Arjun Vishad Yoga. In his Vishad, in his lamentation, he remembered Krishna. Right. Here it is Devahuti's lamentation, but her lamentation is that now there is an indication that Kardam Muni would move on to the next ashram, sannyas. And when that would happen, then Devahuti would be left with the daughters. It is also said that the daughters would leave at one point. One day they would leave, right? They would go to their respective husbands' homes and only visit their mother once in a while. So it is naturally expected that in that situation, the wife or that lady must subsist on the son. So that is the source of lamentation, but at the same time here she is very clearly also mentioning that that lamentation is also for spiritual knowledge. That's what she is seeking. So in that sense, if we try to understand the root of sense gratification, what is wrong? Because here Srila Prabhupada says that there is a need of sense gratification according to a regulative principle. Right? We don't give up eating, but we give up eating bhoga. Right? So what we are doing is we are bringing in the angle of the presence of the Lord. In that sense, if you see, what is missing is a relationship. We are missing our relationship and acknowledgement of our relationship with God, and making our lives spiritual means to start acknowledging the relationship with the Supreme in every aspect of our lives. Sense gratification, which is not bona fide in that sense, is actually forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna. So sense gratification in another way is a problem. It's a symptom of a problem in our relationship. Okay. So we can, how Lord has done is, Lord is very merciful actually, and what he has done is that to understand how to have a healthy spiritual life, how it is like to be in the spiritual world, the place where Lord has sent us is not very different from what is there in the spiritual world. Right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, right, that there is a banyan tree which is upside down. So roots are upwards and the branches are downwards, because the material world is created in the reflection of, as a reflection of the real world, which is the spiritual world. Why it is important? It is important because if when you will go to the spiritual world, it will not be extremely different, in a completely different dimension, completely different aspect. Everything is different and it has got nothing to do with this world. The Lord is not like that. Lord leaves trails, leaves hints, leaves, there's a good reason why this world is manufactured or structured in this way. So same applies to the relationships also. The relationship that we have with the Supreme and the relationships, the material relationships that we experience over here, they are also not very different from each other. It can never happen that somebody's relationships with strangers, relationships with society around him, relationships with his friends, relationships with his most intimate family members, everything is a mess. Everyone hates this person. And he also hates everyone. Okay, like for somebody like Jad Bharat, it can be said that, people had a very bad attitude towards him, but Jad Bharat himself had a very nice attitude towards others. Right? And then he had a very nice relationship with Krishna also. So it is not possible that somebody hates everybody here, but they think that hypothetically, I have a lot of love for Krishna. It's never going to happen. Because whether I go to work or I stay in the temple or I am at home, I carry the same attitude. I'm one person with one version of attitude, just how I'm manifesting it socially, personally, or among friends, right? So it cannot happen that hypothetically I have something that, okay, when Krishna I will meet, I will be very nice. But yeah, I don't like anybody else. So that's not true actually, in that sense, here Mother Devahuti is talking about spiritual progress. So what is spiritual progress? It is simple as this. First, understanding that we are not disconnected, independent entity in this universe. We are connected to this universe and we are connected to the source of this universe, creator of this universe. Everything around us, we are connected to. Every person around us, we have a relationship, right? And when we start acknowledging this relationship, then we realize that the reason we are not able to experience it 24/7, that relation, that connection with the universal Supreme, is because there is a problem in our attitude. There's a problem. What is attitude? Attitude is what is your outlook? What is your perspective towards people, towards life in general, and towards what you should do, right? When there's a problem in that, then we cannot experience the world the way it is. So the general tendency that a soul has to be happy, we try to still fulfill it in the absence of acknowledging these relationships. That translates into sense gratification. We're trying to enjoy, but we are not concerned about where that enjoyment is coming from, right? Here, I may walk into the temple also for that matter, and I am taking prasad, but I am failing to, let's say, if I am failing to acknowledge who prepared the bhoga for the Lord, So first is the Lord himself, because of whom this has come. But this is at a very high level. After that, who got it, who prepared it, who's running the show, whose desire was it to bring the temple over here, who is contributing to it. It's just waking up to these facts Somebody is toiling, hard sweat and blood to run this temple. If I am coming here enjoying very nice sweets, prasad or whatever, then it is only very obvious to wake up to this fact that yes, there is somebody behind the scenes who's working hard so that I'm getting what I'm getting. This is the first part, acknowledging the relationship. This is the primary principle on the path of progress in spiritual life, which is called Sambandha Gyan. Right? Sambandha Gyan cannot be received without the existence of representatives of Guru. That means devotees as well as Guru is very important. And our sambandh with them alone will decide our relationship with Krishna also. Right? The Krishna's mercy in that sense is very, very precise in nature. There are so many accounts of our spiritual master. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopijan Vallabh Bhagwan ki Jai, Shri Shri Nitai Patit Pavan Gaur Hari ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. The deities are looking so beautiful, so beautifully dressed by Mishkincha Nitai Prabhu Naveen Radha Mataji. Acknowledging them. Hari Bol. So there are so many accounts, so many pastimes and incidents shared very confidentially by different devotees at different times that our spiritual masters they have displayed in so many places that they can read minds or they know what's going on. It's very common for the devotees to say that when I go and stand in front of my Guru Maharaj, just by the way he's looking at me, I know that he can look right through me and see what's going on in my mind. Sometimes because of that, the devotees are very scared. Are Bapre, if Guru Maharaj gets to know what's running in my mind, I will be so ashamed. And because of that, I was also very apprehensive. I was like, okay, of all the things I have done, since Guru Maharaj saw me last time he looked at me, smiled, and this time he will come, he will see, Are Bapre, what this guy is doing. So, second last time when Maharaj came over here, I was standing next to Yugal Kishore Prabhuji, and he said something about, okay, this Prabhu, he did very nice service or something like that. And Maharaj immediately hugged. It was like the best thing in the world. So much mercy. Amazing. Then Maharaj left. After some time, a couple of years probably, we got the news that there are initiations happening in Chicago. And because a couple of very close friends are getting initiated, I also decided I will go over there. But this time there was no Yugal Kishore Prabhu. Right? I stood there, Maharaj came, did not even look at me, went. He must have read my mind. He must have seen how fallen I am. And there's no doubt, and I started counting all the things that, I may have done, and everything is reeling, and he knows everything, and how Yog Maya is working, how I was standing at some place. It has happened 3 or 4 times with me that every time Maharaj is about to enter the building where he's supposed to come, somehow I'm always in the entrance on the door. It happened here in 2013, it happened there in 2019. Maybe at least 2 incidents I can remember that I'm alone and Maharaj is coming, and he did not look at me. And for days I kept thinking. So now this time I thought, Are Bapre, this time I feel like I had offended even more devotees this time, and so many things I had done. And what is going to happen this time? Probably Maharaj will chastise me or something, literally or not even like literally ignore me as if I don't even exist. Even if somebody said that Prabhu and Maharaj won't like. Because I know of some devotees who were seeking guidance. They wanted to tell Guru Maharaj how they are not able to chant 16 rounds. And Maharaj, and this is the only one where I will tell how Maharaj knows what's going on in devotees' mind. There was a line of devotees, about 15 or 20. Maharaj is slowly coming. He's stopping at every devotee. They are telling Maharaj, things, and Maharaj is responding back, and this Prabhu was standing last, and Maharaj came and just looked at him, and even before he could gather, so he is in a very, very noble profession, doctor by profession, and his work was so crazy that he could not chant. He had to start early in the morning. He'll be at the hospital until 8 or 9 in the night. He'll come back and he'll be so tired that while chanting he was falling asleep. His 16 rounds are not happening. So he wanted to talk to Guru Maharaj about this, and so he went and he stood there with waiting for Maharaj, meditating on Guru Maharaj, praying to Guru Maharaj for 2 or 3 months in a row, just standing there to get some word of solace so that he can be pacified or whatever. Maharaj came, stood in front of him for 5 seconds, looked through him, just said, I have to chant my rounds, and left. And this Prabhu is like, Arey, I was waiting for so long. Maharaj did not even speak to me. He went for a week or 2, he kept meditating. Maharaj did not even speak to me. I could have told him this, that. Suddenly that moment of realization, right? He was doing Narsimha prayers or something in the morning, and then he realized Maharaj gave the answer. He was thinking he will tell Maharaj that he is not able to chant his 16 rounds. Maharaj told him, I have to chant my rounds. And that is the answer that he was looking for. And taking that as Guru Vani, then he decided that the type of job he is in his hospital, he needs to change that and take up a lower profile job where at least he gets time for his sadhana. He did that, and now he is very glorious and he chants more rounds than anybody can imagine, So this is just one. I know many, but today the topic is different. So it is very clear Maharaj knows in and out of a person. So when this time Maharaj came, I was full of anticipation on what will happen. And I realized, it's okay. I realized that that Maharaj is here and he is giving his mercy purely based on that lineage. Yugal Kishore Prabhuji is standing over there. Whomever Prabhuji points, this Prabhu, he did great service. Maharaj will go, will give him hug, and he will give everything he has in terms of bestowing his mercy to that person. This is called precise mercy. Precise mercy means, this is the process, this is how it happens, this is how it will happen. So you are standing there in the queue, Maharaj is in the room, you will go inside, he will do this, then he will do this, he will give this, he will give all the love, he will shower all the blessings, you come out, done, second person goes there. What I realized by that is that I heard 5 or 6 years ago, Maharaj had this in his book, that Krishna's mercy is also like that. It's very precise in nature. If a person is not connected to a guru, then there is no way that Nishkapat mercy will flow. The only other place by which the mercy can flow is through Maya, and that is called Sakapat Kripa. Sakapat Kripa means you are not serious for spiritual life. The mercy will flow. You will get sense enjoyment and everything through Maya, because Maya does not connect anybody, right? Mahamaya, Hare Krishna, does not connect anybody to Krishna. And Yogmaya's way of connecting to Krishna is only through a guru. She directly does not connect. That, okay, there is Yogmaya, and what form of Yogmaya is it? It's just mental, and I'm connecting directly to Krishna. Never happens. It has to happen through a guru only. So the mercy flows in our lives only through guru and representatives of guru. There is no other way where mercy comes from. Everything else that comes to us can be sense gratification manifested by Yogmaya. It's only that. So what we need to do is, we need to align our attitude to the goal of life. That goal of life, Srimad Bhagavatam says, is Samaya Pumso Paro Dharmo Yator Bhaktir Adhokshar Ahituki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasida. This is the attitude one should have. Ahituki apratihata, uninterrupted, unmotivated devotional service. This devotional service to Adhokshaja, to the Supreme Lord, and when that is attained, then the Jivdaya starts. You know, Jivdaya, actually, we can start something in the name of representing the Guru, we can start some preaching work or whatever, but actually, if there is Jivdaya, then there is no question of anarthas. Because Jivdaya means having compassion for living entities. That means you see them as Vasudeva Kutumbakam. You see them as your family. That means every living entity is a family. If every living entity, you truly see them as your family members, there's no question of having lust towards anybody then. There is no question of having envy towards anybody. I would never envy my family member. I would not envy my child. So if I really see every living entity as my family member, there's no question of having envy towards them, right? People find a lot of joy in showing off to others. That is what pride is. You would never find a lot of joy in showing off to your own relatives, or not even relatives, like your mother or your father. You know, if that relationship is not far distant, if you are this close, they already know, you are already like, when a celebrity walks into his family, the family doesn't reach out to him, give me autograph. And he also doesn't feel like, oh, my fan is coming. It's your father who's coming, mother is coming, right? So this entire sense of pride, it only exists with them whom you see as strangers, whom I do not know. So pride exists as long as that sense of non-belongingness is there. If you see everyone in this world as a family, then there's no question of pride. Whom are you showing off? To my own, he's your own family member. Why are you having envy? Envy would be there if I see the other person as different party. Right? So there are two ways how spirituality answers that. There is how you can mitigate envy. So first way is that if somebody who belongs to me, right, my son, my daughter, or my wife, when they win something and I'm totally on board with them, that means my relationship with them is very nice. Sometimes people feel envy even with their own very close relatives. Why does that happen? That only happens when, again, it comes back to the relationship. If the relationship is weak, when the relationship is weak, I don't feel happy when the other person feels happy. Simple, right? If the relationship is strong, very strong, then when the other person feels happy, I feel happy. So what is the definition of envy? The definition of envy in that sense is when someone feels happy and I don't have a good relation with them, then I don't feel happy when they are happy. So the idea of Jivdaya, that means thinking good for others, which is the foundation of which is actually in spirituality, that you are able to see a connection. That connection, if it is anything material, it will wither away at some point of time, or it will be very limited. That is the problem that Ravana also had. Ravana was very cruel for rest of the world. But how was he for the Lankavasis? He gave a golden city to them. He gave best of the abilities. That is the definition of an Asura, Rakshasa. An Asura is a person who loves himself and everybody he sees as his own very nicely. Me and my nation, everything best. Everyone else, hell with them. That is an Asura. That is a Rakshasa. Selfish, right? So here Mother Devahuti, she is saying that when you do not have a relationship, when you have forgotten your relationship with God, when you have forgotten your relationship with Guru, in that absence of that relationship, the mercy flows through as Sakapat Kripa, through Maya, in the form of sense gratification. This sense gratification actually is supposed to bring you up to a point of pointlessness. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Narad Muni says, right? Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Therefore, now inquire about the absolute. So those who are, scholars in literary, writings, they question how can a document, a scripture start with therefore, because therefore is a conjunction, right? Narad Muni says that he's starting Vedanta Sutra by Athato. Therefore, now inquire about the spiritual truth. Why? He's saying if your reason to feel happiness is anything below spirituality, you will end in a point of dissatisfaction at some point. There will be two stages. Either you will not achieve what you wanted to achieve, dissatisfied, or you will achieve what you wanted to achieve. Then again a dissatisfaction comes. Most of the people who reached that summit of whatever they were running for, they have reached that dissatisfaction. Be it Bill Gates, be it anybody who reached the topmost, like, okay, you are the richest man in this world. Dissatisfaction. So problem with people in Kali Yuga is that most of the people's lives go in struggling for a stable life, stable job, paying bills, paying off loans, paying off this, paying off for children, this, that, retired, done. I was a money-making robot. And then the day I was told I'm invalid now, I'm not a money-making robot anymore, I told myself, retire, my purpose of life is over. If somebody is able to go past these, right, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if a person is able to go past these needs in terms of, what is the goal of my life, then they start seeing things like work-life balance, money is not everything, because there's some financial independence. When you get money, half of these needs problems are solved, right? Then they start looking at, okay, now I'm not working for money anymore. So somebody like Sachin Tendulkar or Amitabh Bachchan, they are not working for money. They are working for name, fame, this, that. So like that, you go on the top. Then when that dissatisfaction comes, that is the path that the Devi Dham, this world is considered Devi Dham. It's said in Brahma Samhita, right? That is what is the path supposed to be. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. First you perform your duty by dharma. If you do by adharma, it will always be anxiety. If you do by dharma, that will result in economic progress, artha. Because of that, you will be able to enjoy kama. And when you have reached the epitome of that, that is supposed to bring you to a point where Devahuti is. That I have enjoyed, we are enjoying from so long. Now, spiritual progress, I'm thinking about spirituality. So that's why it is said that it is not possible to practice spirituality in hellish planets, because you're always distressed. If you're always distressed, you would never think about spirituality. And in heavenly planets also, it is considered difficult because there is so much fun that the idea comes, but the opportunity to do that austerity in the middle of a Disney world is very difficult. So that's why Earth is an optimum place to practice spirituality, where you get enough happiness to now think of the next, and enough distress to not like this world and think of something beyond this, right? So I would want to backtrack, and we started on the Asuric situation of how people, if they think of the source of happiness as something which belongs to only certain group of people because they belong to me somehow, like, I'm not living a life for myself, it's only for my parents and my wife and my children. I don't do anything for myself. I'm a very selfless person. It's really my love for my children. Okay, if they were your neighbor's children, then will you have that same love? No. That means the primary focus of my definition of love is still me and anybody who's related to me. So this is Asuric. This is what Ravana also wanted. So the idea of Vasudev Kutumbakam, considering everybody as a family member, if we are able to achieve that in true sense is giving up of all anarthas. Envy will not arise then. Lust, there's no question of lust then. Anger is also a root of anger is some selfish self-oriented desire unfulfilled. So that's why in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, Krishna mentions about yajna. He starts talking about yajna. What he says is that there are two things. There's yajna and yoga. Bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga starts, pure devotional service starts from devotional activities that you do in places like your temple, or in a home. If you set up an altar where there's a flower, you're offering flower, you're offering dhoop, batti, right? Yajna is not that. Yajna starts with material desires. I have some material desire. Now I want to spiritualize it. So the transition that happens is from karma kanda to yajna. That means from my desires to Krishna's pleasure. So that's why where it is explained what is yajna, the definition of yajna is samsiddhir haritoshna, things that are done for Krishna's pleasure. So the premise in which yajna is set is that you start with karmic activities, but you slowly over a period of time, you transition your desires from me to for the pleasure of the Lord. Take some time, right? So later in this, I had noted that down, the 17th and 18th verses, the 17th and the 18th verse of Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna is saying that a person who has completely disconnected himself from desires to enjoy in this world by this transformation process, where Prabhupada gave the ultimate, that through the activities in Krishna consciousness, you are transitioning from I like this gulab jamun very nicely, I'm eating prasad, to I like whatever has been offered to the Lord, I will take that as prasadam because it was given to Krishna. This transition, if somebody has done it, then he is not obligated to any responsibility. He can just walk away. It's very difficult to understand how can somebody just take sannyas and walk away. So the very good and applicable example is that somebody goes to jail, and in that jail they are given a service that you are supposed to make 5 chairs every day. Now I am also sitting with him. He is making 5 chairs. I am also making 5 chairs. And if sometime he is leaving, I'll be like, hey, you are only done 4.5. It's your responsibility to finish 5 every day. Yes, okay. One day he comes, he's only done with making 1 chair, and suddenly the warden comes and says, hey, your jail time is done. And then we are wondering, but his 4 chairs are left. He did not make the 4 chairs. His jail time is done. It doesn't matter now whether to make those chairs or not. Right? He can just leave. That is the situation of sannyasi. We are engaged here as long as we are obligated by our own material attachments. As long as we are materially attached, we are serving sort of a jail time in this world. The moment it is like, okay, done, you can step out, no strings connected, no strings attached. Why? Because those responsibilities are directly tied to your body. And once you have taken care of those, you can go and fulfill your ultimate spiritual responsibility. That's it. And that's why what Devahuti is asking is for that one last request, that in terms of your responsibilities, if you give me a son, I will be taken care of. He can take care of me. You are not obligated. Actually, he was still not obligated. Kardam Muni was not obligated to even give that son, because it's not the son who will maintain Devahuti. It's the Lord who maintains every living entity in whatever way he has decided. But like in chapter 3, Krishna says, even when those who are liberated, and Krishna himself, who's always liberated, who never gets contaminated or obligated in this world, even though they are not obligated to do something in this world, they still perform all their activities, right? So that was one point. I'll see if I had any other point that I wanted to mention. Yeah, here actually Kardam Muni's position is the last thing I wanted to talk about. Kardam Muni's position is mentioned that it wasn't that he fell down or he started sense enjoyment or whatever. He was always at that elevated position. Even from the beginning, he has been compared almost to like that he has done the Brahma Sparsha. and he is at that platform. It was Devahuti who, in the subsequent shlokas, who says that she was not able to understand or see, she was not aware of her husband's elevated position. So now if you again, in the light of this knowledge, if you think about Kartam Muni, right, he was giving that living entity what they were desiring at that time through a legal way. Like Srila Prabhupada says, there is a need of sense gratification, but it should be according to a regulative principle. You have to eat something. Don't eat bhoga, eat prasad. That is the legal way of doing it, right? So Kardam Muni provided the legal way of staying happy in this world to Devahuti. What happens because of that? With that and the association of a pure devotee like Kardam Muni, she was able to elevate herself to a point where now she is ready to inquire about the absolute. Right? Srila Prabhupada did that. There was a person who was like, I want to go out and eat chocolate. Srila Prabhupada said, you want to eat chocolate? I'll give you something better than a chocolate. He went to the kitchen. He cooked a very nice halwa. Without even offering to Krishna, he gave it to that devotee. He said, have it. What's the result? He lost all taste for, feeling of eating outside or anything. Very happy and satisfied with all the prasad. Now we have carom also. So, Hare Krishna. So that is the point, that for a preacher, we see what is needed for a person at that place, in whatever level of consciousness they are, and see how they can appreciate spirituality from that standpoint. If they do that, then they naturally become more attracted towards the next level. So that was one of the last points I wanted to mention, and a continuation and a lesson or a takeaway for us is that sense gratification is legal when it is done through regulative principle, which means like we have a fan, and fan has a regulator. It's running at 5 full speed. So regulator is one which can bring it back to 4. So if for 20-30 years of my spirituality, if I keep it running at 5 and I say, yes, Prabhu, I know it's regulator, it's fully controlled, I have it, and it's always running at 5, then actually I'm not regulating. Regulation means that I have a desire to reduce it. I have a desire to reduce every form of legal sense gratification. That is the difference between humans and demigods, devatas. Devatas, we human beings, in the absence of proper karma kanda knowledge, we don't know how to legally enjoy in universe and not incur sin. So we keep sinning and keep enjoying and keep sinning. Devatas, what they do is they know what way they can do certain activities so that they can have full fun, but it's all in a legal way. So it's like we live in some city in India where, the party must stop at 10:30. So human beings do not understand, and then the police comes and catches, and the demigods, they do full party, but they stop at exact 10:30. So they are always under the legal boundaries. So they don't incur sin, right? But if that continues, neither we are going back to Krishna, neither they are going back to Vaikuntha. The only way to go back to Vaikuntha is to curb the idea to enjoy separately from Krishna. So to reduce and bring little tapasya, austerity, that results in spiritual progress. That results in taking joy in serving others. It's a big impediment. Why sense gratification can be an impediment? Because it stops you from taking joy in serving others, becoming more selfless rather than selfish. That is the problem of sense gratification. So the regulative principle of sense gratification is that over a period of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever I enjoy within the legal boundaries, there should be a desire to reduce it. And that's why after this, Kardam Muni decides to take sannyas. I'd like to stop at this point. See if you have any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhu. Kardam Muni is her husband, and Devahuti desired that I want children, and then he creates a beautiful this aerial palace which is floating all around the universe, and they are for long periods of time they are enjoying, right? Now it is all allowed for a husband and a wife, right? He was ready. He was already situated at a very high spiritual platform, and he's ready to take sannyas. But as an obligation, it wasn't even an obligation for Kardam Muni, but just so that Devahuti can get what she wants within the boundaries, she didn't have to go outside the boundaries of dharma to enjoy. Kardam Muni facilitated that. And then when Devahuti realizes that he would be leaving, then she asks, okay, if you give me the son also, then my spiritual advancement can happen. So that's what I meant, Prabhuji. Within the boundaries of married life, she was able to enjoy. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us in between. If you have any random thoughts or questions, please feel free to shoot.
You said something mentioned about boundaries or state of truth. So how do we know what are the state of what are the exact boundaries?
Yes. There are two types of rules. One are observable and one are non-observable. Observable rules belong to observable universe. Some things that are universal in nature, like there are rules and laws that govern how this universe should work. Last time I was speaking, I was saying that there's a scientist who said this. You see, this universe is very strongly governed by some laws, like gravitational law, or so many other thermodynamics laws of this, that. Is there somebody who's really forcing or obligating the universe that it must follow these laws? Is there somebody telling you must follow these laws? They are there. Should they be there? Is there a need for the universe to have those laws that they should be there? No, but they are there, and very strongly followed by this. So a very interesting way of looking at, how there are some observable things that seem very natural. There are some morality and ethics which is also observable. For example, I don't like pain, so it is observable. It does not require a book to tell me that if I go to a dentist, it is his moral responsibility to reduce pain when he's working on my tooth. So if we just simply apply the morality or the ethics of empathy, that if I don't want pain, then I should also not inflict pain on others. So if you go by that, then this is also in one sense a very observable morality or ethics, in that application of morality, that is ethics, by which you can understand how to live in this world, by certain rules and regulations. But that is the whole idea that Narad Muni is saying when the Vedanta Sutra starts, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. He says that in this observable universe, if you will follow all the observable rules, they are called dharma. So you can, maybe what max will happen, you will make some mistakes. And then you will understand, okay, how should I respect my father or not? Okay, maybe you will not, maybe one day you will realize. So some of these things are observable. But there is an ascending knowledge and a descending knowledge, so which is called para vidya and apara vidya. So it says in epistemology, sorry for throwing difficult terms at you, but it basically says that if an ant starts from where it is, can the ant one day understand what a computer is? No. If I start simply by observable science, can I reach a conclusion how some very advanced sciences would work all on my own within this lifetime, starting from living in a forest? Very difficult. That's why the entire human civilization, it works on descending knowledge. What is the descending knowledge? Whatever we have found, we will share it with you through Shabda Praman, through the authority. And now you have all the right to exercise it, practice it, and see for yourself whether what they are saying is true or not. So observable science also is taught to us in schools like that only, but there is a higher science, that is the science of spirituality, which is saying that you must understand that when this body will fall dead, you will not die. There is a certain living element in you which stays even when this body falls dead, which is the Atma, the soul, right? So let's start understanding about that also. Because This knowledge you cannot reach by any level of progressing or advancing in observable science. So Sankhya theory actually talks about that. Sankhya theory that Kapil Muni is going to give to Devahuti in the third canto after he's born and everything, it actually talks about learning spirituality through this observable science. So it only reaches to a point of negation that I realized I studied all the elements of this universe. I realized that none of this is supreme, none of this is permanent. So whatever is beyond all this has to be permanent. So it is like a negative way of defining something. Like you ask me what is Mumbai and I say it is not Delhi. It's purely true. It is not Delhi. So what is spirit? Is there something called spirit? Is there anything called spirituality? Yes, it is not matter. That is Sankhya philosophy. Okay. But there are more than, so this is the ascending knowledge. This is the max you can go by ascending knowledge. Descending knowledge starts talking about Vaikuntha planets, about Vishnu, about Krishna. And then there are some processes that are given to us, which are outlined by certain spiritual rules, spiritual regulations also, right? Those rules and regulations, if you start reading, if you start understanding, then they make sense to us, So there's always this, there are two parts of learning. The first part is you are given a knowledge. And then the second part is the practical by which you realize it for yourself, right? So that is how we learn everything. Somebody first told you there's computers. Then you started experiencing, they again gave you some, this is what it is. And then you tried to achieve till that point, right? So that's what's called Gyan and Vigyan. Gyan means knowledge, Vigyan means realizing it. So how do we know what is right and what is wrong can be very subjective based on time, place, and circumstances in this world. But there are certain spiritual principles that never change, right? Like whoever is born will die, right? Now from spirituality, we understand it's a spiritual rule. It will not change, like that. There are certain characteristics of our soul also, and I would just end with that. Soul's happiness is in serving others, and in that serving others, all those others are not just randomly spread around us. They all connect to us through one channel, and that one channel is the Supreme Lord. And that Supreme Lord, the descending knowledge tells us, is Bhagwan Krishna, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha. So that Krishna, you connect to him, he's like the root. All the leaves of the tree and all the branches and everybody will be nourished if you can have your connection reestablished with the Supreme, with Krishna. So that's the general idea. You have a follow-up comment or anything, Prabhu? No. That's fine. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any comments, Prabhuji? We land here. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mother. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
We will end here.